do. All right. What's up, Eric? I think we are live.
We're live. Rick's sick and not feeling good today, and Shawn's in Switzerland, so I guess it's me and you.
Jawohl, Switzerland. This is crazy, man. Europe, that's a good place to go. I wonder what the testing is for that. You know, if you have to go on board of a plane, if they have to do all these crazy tests. Like when I go to Budapest, I mean, you need like 2 COVID tests. You need a fast test the day before. I mean, it's really it's a lot what you have to do.
There's no way I could wear a mask for 10 or 12 hours. I couldn't do it.
That's insane. You don't like traveling by air, right? That's why you bought the RV?
It's not the flight itself. It's getting to the airport and all the BS going to that point.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's always the same crap. And
I'm pretty recognizable, so I get stopped a lot. Our next guest, I'm sure, gets stopped a lot too. So, You want to introduce him?
Well, you know, it's like I'm a very close friend with Kevin James, right? I know Kevin now for like 22 years, longer, I think, you know, because I met him pretty much right away when I came to the States, within 3 months. And he has actually wrestled on the wrestling team in high school, with Mick Foley. And his best buddy, Scott Voss, also told me stories about it. Nicest guy. And he said, man, he was really, envious that we were going to interview him. I said, so then you got to log in and you got to watch the show and see what happens. But Mankind, you have to understand, I come from Holland. In Holland, there's almost no pro wrestling. They don't pay attention to that. It's really weird, you know. And the only names that popped up are Stone Cold, of course, but Mick Foley always. And then with the sock, being Mankind, being the psychopath.
It's a hero of mine.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect for you then. So he was one of your favorite guys growing up.
Oh, without a doubt. Mix. And then when I met him, it was even better. So there's Rick.
Hey guys, how are you? I have to say, first of all, I know Mick is waiting for us, and no disrespect intended for me to come on late like this. I'm waiting my COVID diagnosis momentarily here, and I'm just out of it today. Because, you know, we've been wanting Mick on from the very beginning. He's one of my heroes as well. In my opinion, like the most intelligent guy in the world of pro wrestling, and so interesting. So, Butterbean, boss, my apologies for being late. Apologies to Mick, who I know is waiting. And thank you guys for running with it. So I'm going to step back now and get on with the Boss and Butterbean show, please.
Let's get Mick out here. I mean, he writes books. He does. I don't know what he don't do. We'll have to find out.
Right. Pop him on there. Boom. Let's go. There we go.
Here I am.
Hey, thanks for coming on, Mick. Really appreciate it, my friend.
It's my pleasure. Seems like you guys have a nice thing going on here.
Yeah.
We're having a lot of fun.
It's been really cool. And, you know, there's 2 big distinctions in you coming on today, Mick. First of all, probably the guest that we've most wanted to have on from day one. And here you are.
Thank you.
Secondly, you're like the first non-bald person on here in a a long I thought I'd point that out.
And look, this picture, this gem that I found.
That's the one. Look at that. That's me and Kevin. You can see Kevin's got the traps and the deltoids, and I have none of that going on.
Crazy, right? But man, you really did something in the pro wrestling. Everybody, if you go to Cameo, you have like 4,500 reviews. I don't even everybody writes a review. So how many cameos? You're a busy man.
Yeah, I try. It's not quite that high. It's under 4,000, but yeah, I've been at it a year and a half, and came at just the right time when my entire schedule had been wiped out by COVID, and I thought, all right, let me give it a try. And not only was it the first time I've ever been able to figure out how to make money without traveling, I never could do that before, but it also kind of fulfilled that creative urge. You know, I have songs I've written for birthday. I've got a Father's Day song, you know, and who's got a Father's Day song? So
I love it.
Yeah, I put a little work in there, and I enjoy doing them, and I look forward to, to waking up each morning and seeing how many I have to do.
You know, that's the thing.
You can see in Mick's cameos that he really wants to do them, and I think that's a huge difference maker. I know you go much longer than the average, and I know people really feel like you're getting a personal connection from you, and that's one thing that always stands out in my mind about you. And I always thought of you and Roddy Piper in this same vein. You're probably going, what is this? But you are two guys that no matter who is in the room with you, you make that person the focus and you make them feel special. And that's a really cool quality, man. I wanted to point that out.
You try. I look back, a little bit of embarrassment on some photos of me from 2004, 2005, when I clearly don't look like I want to be in that moment. And that's a shame because people may have waited 2 or 3 hours. In some cases, they're putting down some money, when it comes to Cameo, there's some money involved. And I really take a lot of pride into really enjoying each interaction, because if I enjoy it, they'll enjoy it. And it's something they might look back on years later as a high point. Being maybe, because I've seen you at a few of these conventions, who was a motivating factor for me was watching Henry Winkler at work. Have you ever been at a con with the Fonz?
Not yet. I'm hoping to soon.
Oh, man. Yeah. Have you seen him with his fans?
Oh, he's freaking amazing. We were walking. I did a movie with him, and we were walking as the whole. There's 500 extras, and he's standing there, and everybody's sitting, and he goes, "Hey!" And he sees a guy with a leather jacket, and he goes like, "Hey, put your thing up, your board up, Hey, it was super cool, man. I mean, we watched that show in Holland on Sunday. What was it? The show he got famous for.
Happy Days.
Happy Days. Oh, there we go. And it would be quiet on the street. There was no cars on the street. Everybody would watch the Fonz. So when I found out I was going to do a movie with the Fonz, oh, man, it was so stoked. So funny.
That's right. Because Kevin's had him in about 4 or 5 different movies, right?
Yeah. He did a whole bunch.
He's really been good. He's really been good for Henry, but I see the way Henry interacts, and I saw one parent, and he was like, "Yeah, yesterday came up and started doing magic tricks for my kids. My kids weren't even on his line." So, he makes all of us up our game. But you see someone like that who was the most popular guy, in America in the mid '70s. They're like, hey, if the Fonz can work a little harder, then so can I.
Oh, I was messing with him the whole time with like Velcro. I would see how long it would take till he would break. So I would have Velcro and then stand behind him. Don't do anything, and only do. Constantly doing it, and then like literally after 2 minutes, it's a long time. We go, "Can you stop this right now?" It's hilarious.
I'll tell you what happened to me this week. I got the coolest cameo this weekend. This daughter and mother requested me to have her husband put down the boxing trunks of mine he wears all the time. Says when he's at home, he strips off, puts the boxing trunks on, he shaved his head, and he walks around telling everybody he's Butterbean. So I was informed to tell him to kind of impersonate me. I kind of encouraged him at the end, though. I go, "Dude, keep it up. You're doing a great job."
Did you see a picture too hard a promo on the guy, huh? It's like
a picture. I wish I did. He impersonates me every day. He said every morning he makes sure he shaves his head, puts the trunks on, and walks around the house hollering he's Butterbean. That's
fantastic. Well, you guys all have the 3 of you are all like very much legends in your space and in a lot of the world. And Mick, we're talking about the quality you have that's so endearing and so personable with everybody. And I know 2 other guys just like that. Here they are, Boss Fruit and Butterbean. I mean, you see that always. I have never seen either one of you guys be anything other than 100% nice to everybody you meet. Never. So I wonder, when you're out all the time and pounding, especially in these times when everyone's walking around all pissed off, is it? You can't be in a perfect mood all the time, obviously. So,
well, you have to give yourself your little safe spaces. So, for example, when I was an announcer with WWE in 2008, I specifically asked them not to book me at the TV hotels, because once I'm done with work, I do like to unwind a little bit, and when you go to the TV hotels, there's a lot of fans around. It's like, I just need this time after work to not be that guy. So it's a lot easier to be that guy when you're checking into a Hampton in the middle of nowhere as opposed to the WWE hotel. Because I figure I can't be that guy 24/7. I can be him 23/6. So I think it's important to know it's, I guess it's like a fight in some ways. You play to your strengths, you avoid your weaknesses, and you try to put your best foot forward each time you're out in the public eye.
Here's a somewhat related question for you, for all three of you, actually. You probably won't want to say, but what's your worst fan experience ever?
Hey, I had kind of a bad one just a couple weeks ago, because I do this one-man show where I tell stories from my career, and we do the VIP meet and greet at the end. And this is me making up for all the dates I missed because of COVID. So I was doing 23 events in a 28-day period, and I got through it. I felt pretty good, physically. I wasn't sick. I guess if there's a silver lining to all this COVID, it's that people don't expect to shake hands now, so you're not hurting anyone's feelings when you don't shake hands. And it's just a lot easier to stay healthy when you're not shaking hands. It's a sad but true thing. But I finished up my VIP. I really felt great about that month, and then I was told that there was a fan out there by my car. And you guys have probably run into this, where you have the official collectors. They're not necessarily fans. They're people with official merchandise, and they always have an excuse as to why they couldn't go to the show. So I told the guy I would put him on the honor system. It wasn't fair to other people who had paid, but if he would make a contribution to a local organization, I'd put him on the honor system. And when I signed it, he was walking away, and I said, so we're going to contribute that money. He goes, don't worry about it. And it just put a knot in my stomach, because I've had hundreds of successful and really positive interactions. And then the last one was an unfortunate one. And I had to talk to myself, about not letting that ruin it's like going to a football game and then hitting 2 hours of traffic. You have to remind yourself that you just had a great time, and that 6 months from now, you just want to remember going to the game with your kids, getting a nod from one of the players, and forget about the aggravation of the car ride. So again, it just about trying to be as good as you can, as often as you can, but understanding you can't do it all the time.
Let's put that up with the website up on the screen, so everybody can check that out.
Yeah, because I do have a bunch of shows in November. Pittsburgh's been sold out for a while, but I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, and Rochester, New York. December, we've got a 100% fundraiser in Atlanta for a group called NAMI, National Alliance for Mental Illness. So I was able to raise some money in September, doing something I called the Shirt Off My Back auction. I figure I did it one time in Australia, auction the rugby shirt I was wearing, and we made some money. So I figured we might bring in a couple $100 a night, but we brought in $15,000 in 23 shows. All for one great organization, because that's, I think, something that we've all understood is really important right now. And it was also, unfortunately, to honor one of the women who I worked with, who struggled with her demons and lost about a month ago.
Oh, wow. Uh-oh. That's not good.
Hey, guys, the website's on the bottom of the screen, so if you want to check out Mick's dates, he might get a ton near you, so check him out.
What do you got on the 29th of October in Knoxville?
Oh, I'm doing something called the Fanboy Con. It's at the Knoxville Convention Center for 3 nights. It's always a good time, and you throw in that Halloween vibe. There's a nice cross section of guests there, so it'll be a good time. I think the pro wrestling world is really strongly represented on this one. There's like 6 or 7 of us there. Yeah, it should be a good show.
How are you at airports? I wonder. Is it because you're a big guy too? I mean, people recognize you all the time, right?
Yeah. Oh, airports. Yeah, airports. If somebody said they had a bad experience with me, I can almost pinpoint it to an airport before 5:30 a.m. You haven't slept, you're cranky, you're maybe in a rush, and there are times you just don't have time. But I also understand, after a few years, you're like, you might as well just accept it and enjoy it. I'll give you an example. I was coming out of the baggage claim at LAX, and I see someone with a big camera, ask if they can talk to me, and I realize it's a professional camera. I said, "Oh, who are you with?" They said, TMZ. And at that point, you can either like fight it, or you can just say, "Hey, I don't get much national attention anymore. I might as well enjoy this for what it's worth, and if it's good, they'll put it on TV." And I think 5 years ago they actually had a discussion about who'd had the better post-match career, me or The Rock. And of course, I lost. I was like, of course I'm going to lose that conversation. Anyone but The Rock is going to lose that conversation as to who had a better career than The Rock. And I was just glad that there was a conversation. They were actually like sticking up. Well, he's had a couple books that did really well. I was like, but he's The Rock. He's the biggest star in the entire world. But again, you get a little bit of positive TV out of it instead of being a guy who doesn't want to answer questions. And at my age, at my advanced age, I appreciate the airplay.
That's beautiful. So, Mick, I want to go back to what you were talking about a minute ago with the money you're raising for this nonprofit. So, as you said, that's a point of emphasis these days, mental health. Was that your choice to put that nonprofit into the mix? And if so, why did you choose that?
It was. Well, the young lady I was friends with, Daphne, her real name was Shannon, and she struggled for a long time. And she, she went on Instagram Live. She was, talking about ending her life, and then the next morning she did. And I saw that her mom was asking people to contribute to NAMI, the Georgia chapter, and that was the inspiration. Like I said, I was thinking, okay, by the time I started doing them, I guess I was on like the 7th or 8th of September. So I thought I got 21, 22 shows. If I can raise, $2,000 a night, $200 a night, that'll be $4,000. And instead we raised 15. And so I'm going to try to do that everywhere I go, with the exception of December 5th. I'll pick out a different organization. Last night I was able to raise $520 for a guy named Jimmy Rave, wrestler who lost both his legs to MRSA, 2 amputations, looking at $100,000 medical bill. So obviously $520 is a drop in the bucket, but at least Jimmy knows that the wrestling world is thinking of him. So that's what I'll try to do. Every time I go on stage, I'll find a good charity. Probably coming in to the holidays with me and my Santa background. I'll probably just look for local organizations that help children in need at this time of year.
So do you go out and put your hands on that too during Christmas time? Do you get out into the community and?
Yeah, well, this is the first year I haven't had the massive beard. I've been portraying Santa for the last 9. There are no kids listening to this, are they? Very few kids.
Go right ahead.
Yeah. I usually grow the beard out the whole day, if the whole year. If you guys want to get a laugh and Google Bill Murray and Santa Claus, and you come across a photo of Santa reprimanding a very naughty Bill Murray, that guy would be me. So I love doing it. I've never done it for anything other than volunteer work, but I do it, the best I can, do the best job I can portraying that guy. And it's going to be a shame this year when I don't have the beard, but I figure I can still get out there in the community with what's known as a theatrical beard and do a nice job that way.
That's great, man. And I have to say, Santa Claus notwithstanding, you look much better without the big beard.
I do. I agree with you. The thing was, it was just too far to go for like 20 days, 20 days of volunteer work. That, like I said, I can do almost as well without growing the real beard out. There's none of the Santas we see on the silver screen, or very few of them at least, are real bearded Santas. Sir Richard Attenborough was with the short beard, but Paul Giamatti did a great job with a theatrical beard, and Tim Allen did a great job. Ed Asner was a great Santa with a theatrical beard. So I think I'll go that
good
route.
Company. And you know what the best news? The best news, probably, Mick, is no one's going to mistake you for Tank Abbott anymore either. And that's probably the best news. And Tank, if you're out there, I love you. Sorry. But
last time I saw Tank,
we've had a lot of people comment saying thank you for what you're doing for the people with mentally ill.
Oh, it's good. It's, yeah, it's one of those subjects that doesn't necessarily need to hide in the shadows anymore. So I think the pandemic opened up a lot of people's eyes to, what it's like to struggle. Life was hard before the pandemic began, but, now you get people who can't, we're supposed to be social beings, and to be away from friends and family and feel like nobody's out there for you just compounded. I knew going in, because of the organization I'd worked with, that domestic violence was going to pick up. Problems like that were going to become much more exacerbated. You have people who may be at odds with each other, but they could at least escape the house, and now they're all, so it was a tough situation, and loneliness almost became its own, its own pandemic. So I think it's great, that we're more willing to talk about mental illness these days.
A question, right? And I want all of you have the same thing, because you were talking about being social beings and charity and all that. Do you guys have the same effect that when you post something, for instance, I did a charity event last week, and it's every time when you do a charity event, there's not a lot of people clicking on that, not a lot of hearts. Like I post a picture with a baby with a gun and a cell phone, and it says there's no reason that he should have a cell phone at that age, like funny, boom, and he gets like 20,000 hits. But then you post about something to help people, to get money, charity, get homeless people to help, and you get like 500 likes. I go, what's wrong with society nowadays? Why will people do that? That makes no sense.
You know what I think it is, boss? It goes, remember when Mary Poppins was talking about the spoonful of sugar to make the medicine go down? Yeah. You need something along with that brings people. I think people will do the right thing if they're encouraged, like with a dangling carrot, For me, when I was able to raise some money for like what I was calling the WrestleMania Dream Event or Dream Auction, because people knew that I was really trying to raise money for groups. A couple different groups we raised some money for over the years, but they also saw the wrestling side of it, that it was, the 2 tickets from anywhere in the world, the Mania, and then I kept throwing in like, a meet and greet with this person and lunch with Lynch. Becky Lynch would do lunch, breakfast with Banks one year. Sasha Banks, joined my winners. And so people they got into the spirit of giving, but they don't get in there all on their own. Does that make sense? Because I've had to tell people in direct messages, look, I'm really sorry, but I just can't, take up every request, because then my stream becomes a lot of sorrow and nobody's really donating. Maybe $10 are raised because of just one tweet that asks for help. So, boss, I would say if you could find a UFC twist, MMA twist, and present it as something people should be doing, it's hard. It's difficult.
Yeah, no, but that's good. I'm going to take that advice, because it's true. You need something that catches the attention right away, and then maybe just talk about it. Maybe just be honest. I mean, because if people see it, they don't realize it. Maybe I always think maybe it is because you're doing 100% goes to the charity, and people probably always think, they probably pocket some money themselves.
Yeah,
and maybe that's the reason. You see what I mean? But then I wouldn't say 100% goes to it. So. Yeah, but make it a special thing. That's a good idea.
Or if you have if you have an image like the one you talked about with the baby, the gun and the phone, and you feel like it might do well, then put that in your first 2 lines, and then throw in a little, hey, if you get the chance to check out a good cause. Yeah. That way you have so many more eyeballs on it, 20,000 as opposed to 500. Yeah. And if people are sharing, then you get your word out. slowly but surely, I think.
Nice. I love it.
And boss, me and Mick and Bean would all like you to text that photo to us because we all want to see it now. Hey,
Bean's down.
Bean, what happened?
Butterbean.
The match you're most proud of. I mean, people want to know what's the match you're most proud of.
You know what? I this is one of the stories I really enjoyed talking about on my tour, because it's not one people even saw or remembered. It was January 10th, 1995, with Terry Funk in Japan, and that's where I started seeing Boss, because you were doing the Pancrase at that time.
Yeah. And I know Terry. I went to his ranch and everything. He's a good guy.
Yeah, Terry's a great guy. And on that night, we had a small crowd. But you know what it was like with the Japanese, well, both you guys know what it was like with the Japanese media contingent, that if you're lucky enough to be in front of big crowds, that was great. But those media people were going to get those beautiful full-color photos across the country to like 500,000 fans within a couple days. So we only had about 150 fans at this little arena. It was my first no-rope barbed wire singles match. And because Terry would wrestle with the Japanese, he would dress with the Japanese wrestlers. He was like part of the culture. Like they were on that night in Guma, Japan, which is a little prefecture they call about 90 minutes outside Tokyo. I didn't even get a chance to see him, let alone talk to him. So you're just trying to put something together while you're there, and we turned in something special that night. Crazy match, and Terry's out of his mind anyway. But it was the one I'm proudest of, because there were so few people. There was relatively little money at stake, but we thought we were building the foundation to that promotion on that night, and that's why I'm so proud of it.
Was that FMW, Mick?
No, we were like a competition to FMW. IWA Japan was competition.
Yeah, IWA, sure.
Yeah, we had a good crew of people, but I thought with Terry there, I get a chance to run with the ball as far as I could, and that promotion treated me really well.
Yeah, I know the match and I've seen it. I just couldn't remember the promotion. And Bean, if you want to watch something that's truly something to behold, check that match out. It is some off the reservation stuff, man, but really, really good.
Every time I go home and I go on YouTube, it's YouTube suggests a new Butterbean match for me. So sometimes when I can't sleep, I'll just go down a rabbit hole and I watch 6 hours of 1970s boxing, and like Foreman and Ali and Ken Norton and Ernie Shavers. And then sometimes, then they'll suggest things. And so I'll watch different disciplines against each other. And Bean, you get suggested to me almost every time I go on there.
Awesome.
And I wanted, for the record, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that I beat Terry Funk in a steak eating contest.
Oh, did you do the one that was the one in Amarillo that has that restaurant has a huge steak? Jeez.
Dude, I wanted to be on the wall, but you know what? I had 5 fries left, and you had to eat everything on your plate. And 72 ounce, you have no clue. I said, who's not going to make it is going to be a pussy. And halfway down, he goes, I'm a pussy, I'm out. I go, now I got to go. So I kept going, and there were 5 fries only.
And you couldn't do it, huh?
Look at that, Mick. Boss wouldn't even put Terry Funk over in his hometown of Amarillo. Wow.
See, that's the kind of guy I am.
That's all right. You're a very competitive man, Boss Ritten. We all know that. Speaking of which, here's an utterly bizarre question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, Mick. If you were a promoter, who would you book to win a 3-way dance between Boss Ritten, Butterbean, and Mankind?
Oh man, what do you mean in our current states?
Maybe in your primes.
I think if Boston runs around for a couple minutes, me and Bean are going to drop on them. So well, this is an unusual question, but I will dare say that two of the three of us you mentioned would be more real than the other one. So So unless Mr. McMahon had a definite say so, I would say I would not fare too well with these two gentlemen.
All right. Well, you're the promoter, so you have the book on this one.
All right, okay. All right. In that case, Foley goes over. Easy. Yeah, strong. I have to look strong.
Like I said, this is my COVID-addled brain coming up with these questions. So pardon me. I'm not usually that out there. But
well, I had an awesome day today, guys. Let me tell you what happened. My package come in today. I got it installed. I'm just waiting for the morning to try it out. My bidet arrived.
Whoa, really?
That's my bidet. I'm the commode. It's warmed. I got the warm water. I'm set now, man. I'm hooked up. I've been looking for one for a while.
You're not going to leave that room for hours on end, are you?
Mick, we cannot do a Talking Tough episode without some mention of Butterbean's bathroom habits. You have to know that. It's part of the gimmick at this point.
He pushes babies out. That's what he's doing.
But I'm fascinated that you actually bought a bidet and had it shipped to your house. That's great.
I bought one from the camper too. Don't think I didn't. I bought one from our RV also.
Of course you do.
Wow. I hope warm water.
Of course, yeah.
Okay, good. It's important.
That's admirable. You do that, yeah.
That's we're all speechless. Being you've rendered us out speechless. We don't know where to go from here.
Last year we done these calls, Mick. It's me, Boss, Rick, and other people. We just bullshit about what's going on and things like this. It's kind of where this show come from, because people want to know, what's going on with our lives, our ups and downs and our struggles and different problems and great things that's happened. So that's kind of where the whole show started, I believe.
Yeah,
that's a great idea. I appreciate being on here.
Yeah, we do talk, as you mentioned before, everyone's going through a tough time. So we do talk a lot about vulnerability. Because, we all come from these, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it, these sort of like tough guy worlds where, people from the mixed martial art, I'm pointing at my screen. It may not make any sense to you guys, but Boss, mixed martial arts, Mick, pro wrestling, Butterbean, boxing. And it's a show. I mean, look, I know the reality of each, so don't take that the wrong way. But the show is the facade. You're always in character. You're always tough. You're always on. Yeah. And it's been a blessing to get to talk to guys like yourself who get real. And, if you follow the comments on the side of the screen, I don't know if you can see them or not, and the messages that we get, it's really resonating with people, because they're realizing that everybody's in it and everybody has a way out of it. And that's the message I'm getting from you as well, from the moment you came on. So Thank you again for participating.
And my pleasure. I mean, both you guys have probably seen men and women whose entire, not only their lives, but the entire way they think about themselves changes with a devastating loss. And some men and women shrug it off and just realize it's part of life. And then for other people, they're never quite the same. And that can be a devastating, for some people it's devastating because a real bad loss can change their livelihood. For other people, they could just never come to grips that somebody on that night was tougher or better than them.
Yeah. Crazy.
My first loss was at Madison Square Garden. I went outside and I got mobbed by people. It picked my spirits up a lot, but there was a kid in a wheelchair that couldn't get to me. And it took almost an hour and a half to get to him. And I mean, just having people still like you after your loss it helped. But when I met that kid, he was paralyzed. He was so happy to meet me. I'm like, that honestly impacted the rest of my life from that point on. If I can make one person's day better. And I had a young kid recently come up to me at a show that was he cried because he met me. And that really keeps me going, because if you can make one person's day better, they're going to return the favor and make somebody else's day better.
Yeah.
I think people, when you were boxing, I think people liked seeing you in the crowd after your match, because you mentioned to me, nobody ever put that in their agreement, because most guys don't want any part of being out there. And once in a while you'd show up, you'd have a shiner or whatever, you'd be out there and you'd be watching that main event. And now you're endearing yourselves to the audience. You're showing that life goes on after a loss, and you're just raising your stock in the boxing world. the last fight I saw, unfortunately, it was not one that he won, and I was surprised. But there's never been a boring Butterbean fight, right?
That's one thing for
That's my
sure. Yeah.
key thing. If the people are happy to watch, there's no winner or loser. I mean, everybody's a winner. Everybody gets paid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Hey, going all the way back, Mick. I read about it, so I don't know if it's true, but it's on Wikipedia it says because Jimmy Snuka was this major influence for you. Is that true?
Yeah.
What was so special about him that you?
Yeah, well, I was really enamored with Superfly Splash. He was coming off the top rope with a splash when really nobody else was doing it. At least nobody that I had seen. There were other people in different parts of the world. But he had that wild look in his eye. He had that incredible physique. And he could, his balancing was uncanny. And I just really taken by it, especially when I hitchhiked to Madison Square Garden from my college, which is about 200 miles to the north. And that was October 1983. And when he came off the top of the steel cage against Don Morocco, I can see that Morocco was doing almost like a 3/4 sit-up, to kind of break that fall. But didn't take away from the magnitude of the moment. And I was always like somebody drawn more to the reactions than the actions. As at heart, I was an entertainer and not a competitor, although we were always very competitive backstage, about getting those top spots. But so as soon as he came up the top of that cage, I looked around at the audience and I saw all these emotions going on, grown men crying and people hugging each other. And I just thought to myself, man, one day I'd like to make people feel the way that I feel right now. And that was a driving force in my career, trying to make people feel the way that I felt that night.
Wow.
Well, you always did. And on so many occasions, and one in particular for those of us who really follow pro wrestling is that crazy fall you took off the top of the cage with Undertaker, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, that was it.
And I want to ask, what were you thinking? But I'm not going to insult you and ask that question. But oh my God, what I do want to ask, and this is a video of Boston Bean. If you guys haven't seen this, you have to see this because it defies gravity and logic and everything else. Mick, after that bump, were you conscious? Were you cognizant of the reaction? Or were you just in recovery mode? And that's a real question.
Well, yeah. I was, especially started bringing me up the aisle on the gurney. And, I didn't know for sure if I'd be able to get off, but I told the Undertaker if I could, I would. And even as I was climbing that cell structure the second time, I thought to myself, well, at least the worst part of my night is over. And then it got worse in a hurry. So it was, it was a crazy night. I was lucky, I think, for example, that there was no social media, because I think it would have probably trended for 2 days and then been forgotten about. And instead, it just started picking up momentum like a snowball going downhill. And 6 months after it happened, it was far bigger than the night that it did happen.
Wow, crazy.
I still get a kick out of watching that all these years later. It's just,
what I get a kick out of is that it's now part of culture. Not, I was going to say American, but it's worldwide. You'll watch a a World Cup championship game, and a team goes up 3-0, and all of a sudden the memes come in with Jim Ross shouting, "Somebody stop the damn match!" So, he's been broken in half is now part of the lexicon. So, yeah, that match, I was lucky. I resented it for a long time because I didn't want it to be the only thing I was known for. Yeah. But then as time goes by and you see that more and more of the people who are asking about that match weren't even alive when it took place. They're 10 years old, 12 years old. And you realize, okay, I'm pretty fortunate to be remembered. All of us are lucky to be remembered for anything 20 years after the fact, let alone a couple of different things. So, I'm glad that people took to it so much.
Very much in the lexicon of pop culture, as you said. Guys, we're getting a lot of comments. I want to point two out real quickly. Yeah, our co-host, Shawn Ray, has written to us twice. And the first, he's saying hello. He's in the sky on the way to Switzerland. And Mick, he's writing to you directly on the second one. Hey, Mick, you're a true warrior. Love your story, grit, fight, and most of all, commitment to finish strong. All the best, big guy. And that's from our co-host, Shawn Ray. So I wanted to.
Very nice. And what's he going to Switzerland for? Is that where he lives?
Shawn is, I don't want to get it wrong, but it's going to have something to do with his business. He's got a very successful business now in the supplement and accessories world tied to pro bodybuilding. So I'm sure it has something to do with that.
Okay.
I don't know what it's.
Or he's commentating a big bodybuilding something there.
Something, yeah.
Or he's opening a Swiss bank account.
There you go. So many of the comments, we're getting it's pretty interesting, Mick. It's the design of the show is kind of like half war stories, from famous people like yourself, and then half getting into the real stuff. And if you look at the comments today, they're like right down the middle. You're getting a ton of comments and questions, but there's also a lot of stuff on people, being challenged and what to do. So I want to go back for a moment, and I hope you don't mind if I make it serious again. Being you and Mick both talked about, being of service and putting smiles on people's faces. You guys are in a unique position to do that, which is great. It's such a blessing because not everybody in your position takes advantage of that and gives themselves the way you guys do. So thank you for that. What I want to talk about is what can the average person do who doesn't have fame or, doesn't have a network? I used to preach, for example, just be nice to the first 5 people you walk into today. That'll make them feel better. It'll make you feel better. Pretty simple. Pretty simple stuff. Yeah. But what can the average person do to brighten their day and brighten someone else's day?
Well, I do believe in service. And plus you meet some amazing people when you volunteer for something. So, and then you find, it's hard to find someone. Like my son is 29. He is a writer for WWE. It's almost impossible for him to have a social life. So, if he could get out there even for a couple hours a week and do something with like-minded people, he's likely to find something that interests him, some way of giving back, and he's might just meet the right person. So there's a lot of great organizations that deal from everything from food insecurity to depression to building houses, and this year represents the 30th year that my wife and I, or 2022 will be the 30th year my wife and I have been sponsoring children overseas. And so I'm going to try to put some money together for a big, when I say big, I mean like a 2-classroom school, not big. But so that's what I want to do. But anyone else they can sponsor a child. It's easy. There's no shortage of ways to help somebody out, Rick. And like you said, it doesn't have to be too complex. It doesn't even have to be 2 hours a week of volunteering. It can be writing a letter to a child every 3 months and making that child's life a little better.
That's great. And I would encourage anybody out there that needs a boost to find a local organization where you live and go do something for 2 hours. Like Mitch just said, sorry guys, it'll make all the difference in the world. Bean, what do you?
Karma does go good. I mean, karma has a lot of strength, folks. So you do good for somebody.
I believe that. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
I'm telling you, if you shit on somebody, it's coming back at you.
Yeah, you know what we do? We feed the homeless like every last Friday of the month, and we go
there
to and it changes you because you see the homeless that normally you're on your phone, you're moving away from them, but these are regular people, and just even we bring them food and water, but I think the most important for them is that we just talk to them. And then you see them coming to life, and it's just regular people. It's like, it's not what you think. You think, oh, this guy, he's weird. It's not. They're really great people. They start recognizing you now. Hey, man, what's up? I've been all come together. It's something, man. It really does something to you, because the first time I did it, I go, okay, I'm going to stay in this because this is really cool, because it's good for you, but it's especially good for them as well.
Absolutely. They say that charity is not altogether altruistic, it's partially selfish. And that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, because anytime I'm of service, it makes me feel great. So you definitely get something out of it. And boss, what you're talking about, Like, how can somebody out there watching right now find that type of organization in their hometown? What would be like the search term they would put into their?
We because the city they shut us down with COVID, and then they realized, wait a minute, there's homeless people. How are they going to get food now? So suddenly they shut them down. So they started a new organization called Feed My Poor, and that organization. But I know it's in Los Angeles, but I'm pretty sure it has also a New Jersey side, because that's where Big Mike, who's the guy who sets this up, comes from. But go after organizations like that, and you can do anything. You can donate. You can sit there for 2 hours and making sandwiches. I mean, you can do that, or you're going to come out and you deliver sandwiches and water as socks. Like, you make them so happy with a pair of socks. It's just bizarre, because it's like gold for them. So yeah, it changes you. You really should do that. But look into organizations like Feed My Poor.
Beautiful. And you can also go to the Humane Society in your city. And you can wash dogs and walk dogs. And it's like the greatest thing ever. Talk about being happy for a few hours and helping some people and animals out. Anyway, just ideas.
See, this is the family logo, right? And it says FAMILY, and it stands "Forget about me, I love you." That's where it stands for. So let's forget about us and let's start helping people. And that organization's been there for a long time. And again, that's Big Mike, the guy I was talking about. And it's inspiring. I was with Byron Scott last weekend. We were for raising food, and we went to a Jim Mission Bay Thai boxing, and we did a seminar. I taught a seminar there 4 weeks ago, and I said, okay, we're going to come back last weekend then, and we would like to have like socks or whatever you have to spare, cans or beans, whatever it is. And man, I walked into the gym, and people, it was insanity what they got together, and everybody's. A lot of these guys started signing up because they want to come help now feeding the poor. But I mean, one guy had a connection with shoes, and he had like 4 boxes full of these beautiful sports shoes that he got from some company to give to the poor people. You see, so that's cool stuff, man. That makes you feel good, and you're helping people. That's no matter what you said. It's for both of you.
Mick, any travel plans for the holidays? Now that we're talking about this, helping people that probably can't travel. What do you have coming up in your life that's exciting?
In the last several years, I would take off the entire month of December in order to do my Santa volunteering. Last year, though, it was clearly a different year, and I got COVID. So I couldn't even spend the holidays with my family. I was in a hotel room. Luckily, I had not only the cameo videos, but I had about 50 Santa videos that I did for friends and family. So I stayed pretty active. But this time around, I'm doing a couple of events in the Southwest. A guy named Eric Embry was real good to me when I was breaking into wrestling. I was only in my 3rd year wrestling when I got a chance to wrestle for World Class Championship Wrestling out of Texas. And, his belief in me was really a big factor in my career. So I'm going back there to help him do a couple of my own events in neighboring cities. And then I think I'm going to go see my mom in Long Island for a few days and then head back with the family and enjoy hopefully a fun and, memorable Christmas in Florida.
Nice. Boss, Bean, any big plans in the making?
No,
you go.
Going every weekend I'm somewhere trying to have fun and meet people and enjoying my new camper. I love it. I just bought a camper. I don't have to stay in hotels anymore.
Now that I know you have a bidet in your camper, whenever I see you one of these cars, I'm gonna want those keys right away, man.
Not a problem. Like anytime. Hey, Rick, boss, y'all should be kind of feeling left out. Mick actually has a couple of my ink pens I made.
I do, man. What a great hobby. Yeah, it's a great.
What did you make?
Shop next week doing ink pens and then making some more stuff.
Okay, go back. What did you make?
You've never seen Butterbean's handiwork before, boss. It's amazing. His razors and his ink pens. Bean, tell him, please.
I make ink pens out of anything from alligator jawbone to woolly mammoth ivory.
Oh,
pine cones. I mean, I'll have Libby out in the yard picking up pine cones. She hates it, but it makes an awesome ink pen. I'll have to get you one, boss.
I love it. That is so awesome.
And that might be the single best quote ever on Talking Tough. I have Libby out in the yard digging up pine cones. She hates it. We got to remember that. Just get that.
Do we because Mick, we need to know. We all every week we talk about something that really impacted our lives and how we got out of it. Like for instance, I had an OxyContin problem, and did you ever have anything that really got you down and it was like you hit rock bottom? And how did you get out of it?
Wow. Yeah. I did. I had some trouble. About, I'd say it's even 10 years ago. I was just saying on a show, talking about mental health and how nobody ever got together and felt like they could talk about it. That I said on that same interview, even 10 years ago, you would be unlikely or less likely to report a concussion because you still had this idea that, tough guys work through these injuries. And so it took me a while to realize that it didn't take much for me to see stars anymore. Like in the past, if I really got my bell rung, I'd be able to see what okay, that's what happened. This super kick was a little too hard or whatever the case may be. And I started noticing that I couldn't even identify what was causing the stars. And then it's like, it's kind of sad when you're like, oh, it's not them, it's me. Yeah. And I'm just not the guy that can take this stuff anymore, So not only do you have to then realize you're not the man you once were, but now you realize you kind of have that submerged feeling that people who've wrestled with head injuries have, like nothing feels quite the same. And it had me kind of down. And I was looking for something to make me feel the way I used to feel when I was wrestling. And I know most people are not interested in my Santa work, but it really meant a lot to me, like to find something else I could throw myself into. And I was like, well, I used to create characters, but instead of being tougher and wilder and braver, this new character is more patient and he's kinder, gentler. It's like, I think I can do that. So that was my way of working my way out of it, finding something else that I really enjoyed doing, finding a different character that I could portray. And then, we were talking about beating that child, like I had this incredible interaction with this little boy who just gotten out of the ICU because of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I went over his house on Christmas night, 2017, and I thought, man, if I ever had like a list of the best performances of my life, that would probably be at like number 3 or 4. And there was only 5 people in that room, so you realize that you don't need 15,000, like being, I bet, when you put something together out of a woolly mammoth's jaw, it's pretty, it's pretty invigorating, right? Like a lot of pride in that type of thing.
When somebody sees it and wants it and buys it and just, they're like so enamored with it that's how much they like it. That's joy.
Yeah.
When meal and somebody tells you how good it was, it's like a great feeling when you can produce something that somebody else really loves, or the artwork they call it. Yeah, I'm just having fun, but they call it artwork. But it's awesome.
Yeah.
I envy musicians because they can continue to do what they love and they can get together and do it. And once you're done with wrestling, you can, of course, you can not hang around in a negative way, because there's a lot of outlets now for people to continue to make a difference. But you can't get in there and wrestle like you used to. And for you guys, you can't get in the ring and the octagon and do it like you used to. Musicians can still jam. So I think we have to find things that make us feel like we're jamming, and that we're using, if not the same skill set, then maybe utilizing something we learned about ourselves while we were doing what we do in order to do something different.
And believe me, Mick, if I could grow a beard, I would make a great thing. I already got the blood.
I've been thinking that all show long, Bean. I've been thinking that all show long.
I can see you.
Oh, you got it.
right, Mick, we got to hear your ho ho. Come on.
Oh, oh.
Oh, look at this.
That's
all
high
about-
level.
It's all about characters, right? You're talking about characters. You're talking about the 50 videos that you made for your family while you were recovering from COVID. All these. So how did? And I know you must have told this 1,000 times, but Mankind. Did he get born?
Mankind. Oh man. Yeah, I've got the mask here with the hair from my cameos.
Oh,
So,
nice.
put that on, and I just 3-time WWE champion Mankind. I defeated Dwayne The Rock Johnson twice. Have a nice day. So I'll sing Happy Birthday. I've got a bunch of different songs I say, not just Happy Birthday, but things I've written. I hated that character because the mask was so, and at the time I didn't need hair. I had the long hair for so many years, but it really constricted my breathing with the leather underneath the nose. Like I needed all the oxygen I could suck in anyway. But it came about, boss, because Jim Ross, the announcer, was a big advocate of mine. And Mr. McMahon was never interested in me. He didn't think I looked like a star. And finally, my name came up, and he slammed in 1995 in the fall. He slammed his hand down on the table and said, "All right, I'll bring him in, but I'm covering up his face." And that's how I got my foot in the door. And luckily, as time went by, he kind of learned that I had an interesting real life story to tell. And so I was able to inject a lot more realism into that character. And it really was the best thing that could happen to me. The stuff that Mankind did with Dwayne Johnson when he was my opponent, later as my partner, was really fun and memorable stuff. And, luckily we were taking people's minds off their problems, and they still remember some of that stuff we did 22 years after the fact.
Mick, you mentioned that. So you got to really invest in and create the character to a different degree than initially envisioned. And I remember watching it, and I come like equally from the movie world as I do the pro wrestling world. And I always see the similarities and the differences between the two. And, I remember being a big fan of The Missing Link. And, back in the day when characters were really over the top. And but all that said, and with all due respect to Dewey Robertson, who was a great pro wrestler, I never for a second believed that the Missing Link lived in a cave and ate raw meat only, exclusively. Never bought it. Now, with you and Mankind, of course, I was old enough to know better. And I know the way the business works, but I believe that character. It was very, very real. And, my question is, like, you just threw the mask on and you went into you did the voice for a moment. But when you really got into character, did you feel like you were acting, or did you become that guy?
Yeah, that's a good question. Most of the time, you're doing your very best to portray a character, and you're hoping for those few golden moments where you feel like you are that character. So you're not even thinking about what you're going to do. I didn't know, for example, that I was very verbal in the ring. I would know by watching it. Verbal, I made a lot of noise, and I had no game plan to do that. I didn't realize I was doing it when I was in there, especially as Mankind made a lot of noise. I guess in this way, especially some of the female tennis players, they can be very verbal when they're playing, and they don't necessarily realize it's just what they do. So yeah, I did try my best to, give an authentic performance, and there were times, Rick, where I felt like I was that guy. Yeah. You could argue that a lot of wrestlers, they get to a point where they don't know where the character ends and the real life begins, or vice versa, and that's not necessarily a good thing, but it is good to really disappear into that character so that the fans can't tell the difference.
Yeah, I agreed. And I do think when you go home to the wife and the kids, you probably don't want to be Bastion Booger. But if you're, but if you're that while you're working, then it's a different story, I suppose.
Yeah. I put a lot into those characters, and unfortunately, one of the times where I feel like The Rock really was The Rock night really was mankind was that I Quit match from January of 1999, which went way past the point it should have, so we were trying to do something special that night, and it went a little overboard. But we don't have a lot of people who ask about that match because it was really uncomfortable. It wasn't fun to watch.
That's the one I remember as much, if not more, than the match with Taker.
Yeah, you may have been there, right? In Anaheim, right? January 1999. That was a big one.
And okay, so that's amazing you just said that. I'm going to ask a question, and it's a little sensitive, but I feel like it's okay to ask it. So you remembered the date, and I remember when I first met you, we were on set somewhere in some weird place in Hollywood, and you brought something up that was like so detailed about my past. And I'm like, how the hell does this guy who's a star even know who I am, let alone these details? And it's always struck me, Mick, like how your mind works in that regard. It's uncanny. And here it's like this genius where you don't forget anything.
The genius forgot to plug his tablet in. I'm plugging it everywhere I can.
There you are.
I've got less than 10% left, so you might have to say goodbye to me in a couple of minutes.
let me get the sensitive question out real quick then. Let me get this.
Mick out on Cameo for sure.
Yeah, thank you. Pete, I want to get
if you're looking for somebody for Christmas, it's a pretty good way to go.
An awesome Santa.
People love you on Cameo, but I want to get this sensitive question in while we still have Mick, and it's this.
Sure.
Now that we talked about that and how well you remember and how smart you are, I think about that match. Boston Bean, I don't know if you're familiar. Mick took metal chair shot to the head as hard as a rock could swing, unprotected, over and over and over again. And the video of his family being there and watching it is hard to watch. Mick, do you worry about what might happen down the road? Because clearly nothing has happened yet. It's amazing.
I do. Yeah, I do. I do worry a lot. I think we're all in the same boat there. You wonder, everyone, you've seen like that. I think the saddest of all the 30s is the one with Tito and Chuck, right? Because people could see that Chuck had lost something before he realized he lost it. Yeah. And likewise, you go back and you watch that one documentary where Ali's getting ready to fight Larry Holmes, and they should have realized. You compare his verbal ability before the Holmes fight to the way he was so animated before all those classic fights in the early 70s, and they have Frazier and Norton and the one where he won the title in Miami and Lewiston, Maine against who did he beat?
Sonny Liston.
Sonny Liston, yeah. Sonny Liston, yeah. I even twice when I've gone through Maine, I've stayed at the Fireside Inn that Ali stayed at, and actually paid the extra $20 to stay in the same room. But going back to that documentary, like he was slower with his words, and you look back and you say, why couldn't they have realized that? So, yeah, it's hard to make that decision before. It's hard to realize you lost that step before other people realize you lost it. It's tougher still for a wrestler because unlike baseball, basketball, or anything to deal with MMA and boxing, like once you've lost that something, you're never the same person again. But in wrestling, guys go on to do even better because they can control the crowd and work a match in ways that they could not do. And I mean, in a more positive way than when they did have 100% of their physical attributes. And so it becomes really difficult to convince a wrestler that their best days are behind them because we all think we have one more great match left in us. If that makes sense.
Yep. 100%.
Perfect sense. Well, I'm glad to see, Mick, that all the way down the road here, how well you're doing. It's like heartwarming. It really is. I don't know what else to say. Great to see you doing so well and so healthy, and making me feel dumb by comparison, and that's the good thing. So, thank you.
Well, again, I wasn't so smart that I didn't know my tablet was under 10%.
Yeah.
I want to personally thank you for coming on. I've enjoyed spending time with you tonight, and every time I see you, I enjoy seeing you. So,
hey, thanks, Bean. I look forward to seeing you at the convention soon. Boss, Rick, thanks for having me on. Have a great night.
Thank you very much for coming,
Okay.
man. This was awesome.
Say hello to Kevin and Scott for me, all right?
I will do that.
All right. Thanks, my friend. We'll see you guys later.
Bye.
All right, guys. That was fun. I run into him all the time at the different conventions. He's always there too. It's just like it's like a little reunion every time I see him.
He's amazing, man. He's an amazing person. It's really, I really like this guy. He's got a good heart.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
We've been pretty lucky with guests in that regard, I think. And man, it's really I get such a kick out of watching Boss Rutan and Butterbean talk with people like Mick Foley. It's so cool getting to like be on the outside looking in on that. And it's amazing stuff. I mean, you guys are such great guys, and you read the comments and people are blown away because they don't expect this.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm at a loss for words. I have my COVID excuse, so I'm gonna stick with that. While I have it, I'm gonna take advantage of it. How's that?
Exactly. That's what
you
do.
Take care of yourself, Rick, and Boss. We'll talk to y'all soon. And hey, y'all have a great weekend.
You too, brother. Good luck with every day. I love it.
See you guys soon.
Take care. Bye. Ding, ding, ding.
Done. Ugh.